Video number 2. We're going to talk about, well, not Star Wars. I'll give you a moment to consider. Yeah, home stretch, right? The end is almost upon us. Keep in mind that May 11th is, at this point, less than 2 weeks away. That's the goal, to have everything done by May 11th. And then, anything you need to work on with your teachers in the week that follows, you have that freedom to really, make sure everything is just ready to go for, finishing up your school year. Okay. So we are almost there, and that's reality. So let's get into this. Today, number 2, hopefully you've already finished number 1. As a reminder, this that arrived in the mail should have arrived in the mail for you. And the worksheet that goes with these 2 videos, this being number 2, is the Careers in Science. Okay. From the top 2, the geologist and the astronomer, that was from video number 1. In this video, now it's going to be the second side for oceanographer and meteorologist. Very exciting career fields. Let's talk about what they involve. This video is going to be shorter than the last one, but no less important. It's very cool. Careers in Science, number 2. The first one we will consider, other than reminding ourselves of the pay scales and the degree requirements of all of them. We'll get to oceanographer in just a second. If you haven't written down these 4 starting salaries, go ahead and do so now. Pause the video if you need to, get all those numbers written down. These are notional data. I did a little research at certain professions, and these seem to be pretty reliable starting salaries. So you're just beginning the job. You've been hired as an expert in these career fields because you've already finished your schooling and you have a little bit of volunteer time, some field work, some expertise. You've worked hard, and this is the reward. You're gonna get paid, and you're gonna have an exciting, interesting career. All of these, at a minimum, require a Bachelor of Science degree, 4 years of college at the U or UVU or BYU or the college of your choice. Okay, and many folks get that start at the community college. So that is a valid and smart pathway to start at the community college and then transfer, take those credits with you and up your game and become an expert in whatever makes you the happiest. So let's explore those second 2 of the 4 today. Oceanographer. We see our scuba diver here. She's studying either the plant life on the bottom, or she's working with the dolphins themselves. She is there on a mission. She's not just scuba diving for leisure, for enjoyment. She's on the job. But what a workplace, right? What an exciting place to work. Let's talk about oceanographer. Okay, you see a couple marine biologists here in the upper right picture. They are mapping out the life, the corals, the plants that grow on a coral reef itself. You notice they're working in teams. Every diver needs a buddy. Even the 2 you can see in the background there, there's 2 people working closely together. They're writing notes. They're making observations. You see the rope going along the bottom. They're measuring where things are. It's a very specific, scientific, solid approach to learning and getting insight into the health of our oceans. So let's go through the duties and the description. This is where you can be writing down on your sheet here the job description up top. Okay. They study the physical and biological aspects of the world's seas and oceans. Every ocean, every sea, shallow, deep underwater where it's really dark, the places where there's lots of life, the places where there's not much life, they are studying. Let's give some examples of what they're studying under the surface of the water. Marine biology. Biology, as you will learn when you take the class next year, is all about studying life, plant life, corals, right? Animals, okay? And I'm talking fish and mammals like whales and dolphins, all those living things, the beautiful diversity. Marine biology is one of the most popular career fields in the oceanography realm. Currents and heat exchange. These are oceanographers who are looking at how the oceans carry heat from one place to another. Some oceans are really good at absorbing all that sunlight. We talked about this in our albedo lab. We talked about this when we talk about the global conveyor belt that keeps the Earth from being in an ice age right now. We have nice moderate temperatures. Some oceanographers study the heat exchange in the ocean because it gives us insight and we can predict what's going to change as climate change and the oceans warm up a little bit. What's going to change worldwide in all the oceans? It's good to have that insight, good to be able to make those predictions. Marine chemistry, they're looking at the water itself, not just what's in the water, but let's say the water heats up a slight amount. Okay, let's say the water has slightly more carbon in it because the ocean's good at absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. It's a really good carbon sink. Okay, so it pulls CO2 out of the air. That makes the water slightly more acidic. Maybe animals and plants, corals, have a rough time even with a tiny change in the acid content of the seawater itself. Whole coral reefs, whole stretches miles long they call it coral bleaching. They're dying off because the little critters that create the corals can't adapt to the higher, acidity in the water. That's a concern. So we study the water itself. We look at the chemistry of the water, take samples from the water, take it back to the laboratory, when they're finished with their scuba dive, and they look at what's changing and how can we lessen the impact? How can we save these coral reefs and all that? Marine geology, they're looking at the actual land and the crust and the upper layers of the lithosphere underneath the oceans. How are they moving? Are we talking about underwater earthquakes? Are we talking about volcanoes that are starting to push up from the ocean floor? New islands are being made. The mantle plumes. We talked about mantle plumes back in geology. They're looking at how the Hawaiian Islands formed because the crust itself is moving over top of one of these mantle plumes, almost like a candle melting through wax. And it creates all these little islands on the surface. Very cool. And then marine archaeology. I'll move the picture aside here. This is from a video game, I'm fairly certain, but look at how cool would it be to be down there and find the city that was the inspiration behind Homer's description of Atlantis. I mean, these are cool career fields. They strap on a scuba tank and go exploring the ruins and deciphering the ancient languages and taking pictures of the architecture, bring back samples of the statues and how these people lived. So these time capsules of human history, absolutely fascinating. Oceanography includes marine archaeology and studying the past of humans. So there's your duty description. There's a few examples of what they do, and then obviously describe on your worksheet. Pick one of those that you are fascinated with and describe what they do. Wind it back if you need to listen again. Obviously, you can do that anytime. All right. Let's talk about pros and cons. Oceanography, the pros. Yeah, okay, you can see. You get paid to scuba dive. If I didn't love teaching so much, I'd be doing this. Okay, it's amazing. They get paid to scuba dive and get in these little miniature submarines called submersibles, and they go down to the bottom where it's like really dark, and they spend time down there then taking pictures and bringing back samples and learning about life forms that we never even thought about or couldn't imagine existing down there, and they get paid well to do it. Yeah, you're risking yourself because the ocean is an unforgiving place sometimes. But look at the paycheck, look at where they get to go. Wherever the research is needed, that's where oceanographer experts will go. They go to these conferences all over the world. And the cool thing is a PADI, Pacific Asian Divers International, the PADI certification to scuba dive is good anywhere in the world. In fact, I don't know where my card is. I have one sitting in a safe place. My PADI certification, I can walk into any scuba dive shop anywhere in the world. I'm talking Tahiti or Hawaii or Florida or California or the Middle East. Any scuba dive shop in the world. I show my PADI card and they will rent me the equipment to go scuba diving. I don't have a job doing scuba diving, but I have the certification that is good anywhere in the world. So that is a definite plus. It's like a driver's license for scuba diving. Without it, you can't go scuba diving. You can snorkel, but they're not going to give you a tank and a vest, a buoyancy compensator, they call it a BC, and the gauges and everything can go down unless they know that you know what you're doing and you can be safe about it. So that's a plus, is one little card is good anywhere in the world. PADI certification. If you want to scuba dive someday, you're going to get your PADI certification. You can take the class, get in a swimming pool, then go out and get in a lake or an ocean or a sea, wherever you are learning how to scuba dive. It's an excellent thing to have. Okay, so those are the pros, all the plus sides. Let's talk about some of the challenges. Advanced degrees make you more competitive to get those really high paying, highly sought after jobs. Look at the hammerhead shark. What a cool creature that would be to study. Every year, there's islands in the South Pacific where they gather in their thousands to feed and breed and do, whatever it is sharks do. It was a mystery until recently. It was an oceanographer, a marine biologist, who discovered where they are living out their successful lives as hammerhead sharks. Very cool stuff. But you got to travel a lot. You got to be well qualified. You have to be willing to leave home. You permanently work and live near the ocean. If you love the mountains, yeah, marine biologists generally don't keep their homes in Colorado. They're going to live near the ocean, just as a generality, general observation. Long hours, they're going to scuba dive. That's just the most glamorous, immediate part of it. Then the hours they work after their dive, gathering their information, taking their photographs and their measurements, bringing back their samples of the water or the corals or whatever it is they're studying, all the time in the lab, analyzing what they have gathered. That's the real work. That's where the real work takes place. And there's danger in the oceans. That's why you have to have that PADI certification. You got to know what you're doing, because scuba diving 40, 60, 80 feet down under the water is a dangerous business. You have to be qualified, well qualified. Pressure is an issue. Predators exist in the water. It's the ocean. There's always something, chasing after something else for food in the ocean. That's how it is. So there's your pros and cons. Please go ahead and pause it if you need to. Fill in all of the top of Oceanographer. Okay. And would you like it? Scale of 1 to 10, circle whatever number it is, and explain in clear terms why you really would love to do that or why you would really not do that, or somewhere in the middle. Give a good solid reason. Think it through and give a good solid reason why this is good for you or not your thing. All right. And the next one, meteorologist. Whenever you're ready to proceed, we'll do meteorologist. Okay. All right. So take a look at these two pictures. You see the technician, the personality. You can see she is not dressed to go into the field and do research. She's dressed because she is about to, when she's done doing her research, she's going to go and stand in front of a camera and present the evening news. And people trust her to give them a solid forecast. Take a look at the screen monitor she's looking at. Look on the upper left here. You could see this line of storms, intense weather, probably a cold front moving through, or a low pressure system causing all those storms to come through this part of the US. She is an expert in making observations and doing the forecasts. Okay. And she has to be confident in front of a camera. That can be pretty nerve-wracking, right? Right now, I'm talking to a camera, and I know you're watching me because you click play on this thing, and it makes me a little nervous having a camera right in my face. Imagine if it was a camera right there, and the person behind the camera says, "And you're on in 3." 2. And then it's you, and you're like, right? She's got to be good at what she does. Now look at these guys on the right. They are having some fun on the set. I don't know if this is during a broadcast or if they're just goofing around. You know what? The career field can be very exciting. So here's some guys who are really enjoying their work in meteorology. All right, let's go through a description, pros and cons, and how meteorologists make the world a better place. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to put my little picture over here. So, what do meteorologists do? They do more than just stand in front of a camera and say what we can expect in the 7-day forecast. That is just the most visible part. Okay. They study the atmosphere and all its layers. Remember, we talked about layers of the atmosphere, uh, the troposphere and the stratosphere and the ionosphere and the exosphere. All those layers of the atmosphere are doing different things. They all have different qualities. They all have different weather effects. They all have different temperatures, different pressures. All those aspects, meteorologists, you got to be an expert in what's the atmosphere doing in different places, because we've got satellites flying at the upper levels, we got aircraft flying at the lower levels, we got people living on the lowest level of all, and we got to be smart on all those things. Meteorologists have to be an expert on the atmosphere. They're looking at the weather, what's going on right now, and what can we predict in the next few days. Climate, what's going on over long periods of time. What's going on over 30 years, 40 years, 100 years. What's the climate been like in the past? What's it going to be like in the future? So we can start making big decisions that affect life on Earth. Okay. And then storms, patterns of storms. Somebody has to sit there and program that supercomputer on how to predict the weather based on all the data that's been gathered over the last several hundred years. All that gets, so they work with computers as well. Okay, let's go through some examples of the meteorologist career field. Again, it's not just about standing in front of a camera, although that's part of it. The weather reporters. See the gentleman here in this picture, and then there's the cameraman right there, right? And he is standing in the thick of it. He's like, and here out on Route 40, we have a really major blizzard, and it is shaping up to be a doozy. If I were you, I'd get home quickly, and blah, blah, blah. He's giving advice to people so they can make informed decisions, but he is out in the elements. So those weather reporters are out there in the elements doing their thing. Okay. And then there's the online weather specialists. This is where the people who are sitting in a cubicle and looking at all the data. They're looking at weather maps. They're looking at Doppler radar. They're looking at atmospheric models. They're looking at lightning strikes. They're looking at wind speeds. They're looking at supercells. They're looking at everything you can imagine and 100 things I haven't mentioned. They have to be able to look at all these different sources of information and figure out, man, what's important? That's important. That's worth including in the online analysis. That one, nope, that's not that important. Here, that's a really good one. And they pick and choose the most revealing pieces of information, the data, the numbers. If you have an analytical mind, you could look at something and get rid of the stuff that's distracting and focus on what's really important. If you have a brain that is, pretty talented at that, you would be really good as a meteorologist. I'm telling you. If you can filter things out quickly and get to what's really important. Meteorologists do that all the time. All right. So the online, those are the ones who really analyze and put solid facts down so that those who get in front of the camera can rely on that information. Lab researchers, field researchers, we're talking storm chasers, people who get in their car and chase after tornadoes. That's crazy, and they do it. Some of them get paid, some of them just go out and really they're in it for the chase, for the thrill. Computer programmers, how would you like to work with one of the most advanced supercomputers in the country? There are many opportunities for meteorologists to work with computers that spend most of their time, their computing cycles time, thinking about the weather and making predictions. Okay. So if you're good with computers, you could work well as a meteorologist. And then there's college professors and the occasional high school um, teachers who teach meteorology. In earth science, we have a whole unit on meteorology. Some high schools are fortunate enough to have a class, a semester elective science class dedicated to meteorology. But usually we have to pick and choose what extra classes your earth science teachers will teach, and meteorologist isn't always the most common one. Usually it's astronomy and geology. Those are the most common two that get picked. Meteorology, if you're lucky, you get a chance to take that in high school as well. In college, yes, they're available at whatever college you go to. They'll have some kind of a class in meteorology. So there's an example, a professor. All right. All right. So I'll put my picture up there now. There we go. Um, the pros and cons of being a meteorologist. Everyone is interested in the weather. When we don't know what to talk about, we talk about the weather. You're like, hi, it was kind of cold this morning, wasn't it? And all of a sudden, we have something in common. It's something we all have in common, all of humanity. What's going on with the weather right now? It's an easy thing to run to if we don't know what else to say. So it's very much on people's minds all the time. Snow in May? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. And then a whole conversation follows. It's an interesting topic. Meteorologists get to travel. Look at the gentleman here holding up a radio sonde or a drop sonde, right? Weather balloons with a little instrument pack. This is the kind that doesn't get launched on a weather balloon. We've talked about those. This one gets dropped out the back with a little parachute of an aircraft that is deliberately flying into a hurricane. That's crazy. So they kick out these little instrument packs and he's holding it up for the crowd. They get to travel and show off the work that they do. NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. The NOAA people, they fly for a living. They chase hurricanes for a living. They go all over the world. Usually in the hurricane zones is where this kind of work would be done. Talk about interesting, exciting work. Don't ever let anyone tell you being a meteorologist is boring. It is kind of the opposite. It's very exciting. Field research and opportunities. Yep, you get to stand in front of a camera or do radio broadcasts, right? They all get paid well to give their radio broadcasts. You turn on the radio and here's Lindsay or here's, Chase or whoever from whatever channel. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, I watched that person in science class. That's the voice I, hear on the radio too. Wow, they do radio as well. Absolutely. And then here's the cool thing. If there's a storm coming, you're the first to know. If there's a storm coming or a cold front or a blizzard on its way into Salt Lake City, everybody is calling you up. Hey, is it true? Are we going to get 3 feet of snow this weekend? Is that really going to happen? All of a sudden, you are like everybody's favorite person. And they really want to know. And they're sending you messages and making the phone calls and pinging you on social media. What's going on? Should we close schools? Should we not? What's going on? And they're like, all of a sudden, you're everybody's favorite person. Okay. So, yeah, lots of attention showered on meteorologists because everybody's interested in the weather. All right, let's talk about the cons, a little bit of the downside. Yes, advanced degrees get you in the door, get you the job. Okay, so you got to have your 4-year bachelor's degree. That's the minimum. Okay. If you have a master's in something, you are really well qualified. Lindsay Storrs of Channel 2 is a professional, extremely well educated meteorologist. She has a master's degree. She knows her stuff. I trust everything that comes out of her mouth on those broadcasts because she has worked her tail off to get to the job she has now, and she's extremely professional at it. Okay, so the master's degree and PhD in some cases. My professor at Salt Lake Community College had her doctorate in meteorology. One of the smartest people I've ever known in my life. And some of you may have her class if you decide to go to Salt Lake Community College and be in Dr. Hannenberg's meteorology class. Great professor, brilliant individual. I will always respect her. All right. Once you get into the career field, here's another downside. There aren't many promotions. Usually people who get those jobs tend to stay in them for their entire career. Okay, so the team at channel 2 or channel 4 tends to stay that team of people for a very long time. Occasionally, one of them will retire and everyone else moves up, and then they have an opening at the bottom, and lucky timing, you get the job. So getting into the career field is very tough. There's challenging conditions. Yes, you're standing out in a blizzard and doing a broadcast, or you're chasing this tornado. Look at the supercell in this picture. These are professional meteorologists. These aren't two guys who decided to hop in their Jeep and upload a YouTube video because they're after the likes and the subscribes. Look at the van. That is a that is packed with scientific equipment. You could see they have a chaser van and a lead van. That is a team working together. They've got cameras on tripods. They've got high resolution imagery they're taking of the supercell as it moves, and they're reporting the information back to the station so they can warn people. Kansas City or Wichita or Oklahoma City, supercell's headed your way. Time to head for your shelters if you're in these towns or in these counties. Okay, so they're out there putting themselves in harm's way, challenging conditions, and they're in the danger zone. You have to have really good technical skills. You have to be able to work with equipment without getting frustrated at it. If it doesn't work your first attempt, be patient with the equipment because this is expensive stuff and you're expected to be an expert and also, kind of have a good rapport with electronics. You have to have an analytical mind. You have to be able to analyze data and think quickly on your feet so that you can give good advisories when people need that information the most. Early hours. Oh my gosh. I do not envy Chase and Lindsay and those other folks at the TV station who broadcast the news. Sterling has the evening broadcast. He's probably up until very late at night every single night. And the other members of the team are up and at work by 4 a.m. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. But think about it. To get up in the morning, to get to work, analyze all the information you need for your broadcast, and then be, presentable, you're looking professional, you're looking sharp, and you step in front of a camera for the 6 a.m. broadcast. You can't show up at 5:30 and be ready to go for a 6 a.m. broadcast every morning when people are getting up and they want to know, should I bring an umbrella as I head out the door for my 7 o'clock job? So you have to really, it's long hours, getting up early, staying up late, depending on which broadcast, depending on what part of meteorology that you are into. So there's your pros and cons. This should give you all the information you need to fill in all these blanks and then decide at the bottom on a scale of 1 through 10, right here, is this the kind of job I could do? Is this the kind of thing? Is this my kind of challenge? Is this my kind of thing to enjoy and turn it into a professional, successful career? Okay, and then put why. Yes, I could do this, or no, I couldn't, or whatever. But put a reason why. At the bottom, final word. At the bottom, section of the bottom has Roman numeral 5, analysis. What I would like you to do is rank order the 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one, if you had to choose one of them, that's your number one. It's like, yeah, I would totally be an oceanographer. I would love to get paid to scuba dive with the dolphins. Or no, because there's sharks down there. There's no way that sharks scare me. I'm going to put that as number 4. But looking through a telescope and discovering a picture, a photograph of a black hole or a comet that zips by the Earth, that would be exciting. So I'll put that as my number 1. So rank order them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then in this blank right here, what is your ideal career? Doesn't have to be any of these, but I'm giving you something to compare to. If you always wanted to be a fashion designer, if you want to open your own studio or your own salon, or you want to be creative, you want to be an artist, or you want to be up on stage, or you want to you got some solid skills at math, and you want to do calculating and analyzing data for a living, or want to work in economics, right? You want to be a millionaire by the time you're 25. You're going to go into economics and study money and investments, and then make that your focus. So anything you wish puts in the blank under what is your ideal career. Obviously, this can change 1,000 times before you are in your career, whatever that may be. The purpose of all of this, my friends, has been for us to consider all these possibilities. Think about it. The goal is not to fill in a worksheet and turn it in. The goal is to get you thinking beyond what is immediately in front of you all the time. Okay. You do have to turn in the careers worksheet. Take pictures, email it to me. That's how I know that you've taken the time to consider big ideas about a career. Just for a moment, imagine being one of these careers or two of them. Okay. Consider the possibilities. You're not bound to what someone else expects you to do. Okay. May I suggest be willing to change your mind 20 times or 100 times between now and whenever you look back and say, whoa, that was a ridiculously silly idea. Or, holy cow, I am so glad I made that decision because I had a really interesting life. I've spent 24 years traveling the world in the Air Force, mainly as a journalist. No regrets. Was it all easy? Was it all a piece of cake? No, there were parts of it that I really looked in the mirror and said, man, this is just not fun. But in general, working hard, doing something I enjoyed, aces, and you get paid for it. Right now, I get paid to do what I enjoy the most, and that is spend time with you and teach about this stuff. So I have a career in science. All of these things. This is my career, and I love it. And I encourage you to think about the possibilities. You don't have to love what's on this paper, but find something you do enjoy and go after it, and don't look back. Okay. So once again, what I would like you to do is turn in this career worksheet by taking pictures, email it to me, or send it to me through Canvas messaging. You can attach those in Canvas messaging. Either one works. Don't leave anything blank, and then I have no excuse to take points away. You'll get full credit, get your full 100 points, and we'll add it into the system. May 11th, my friends, May 11th. Don't lose sight of that finish line. Okay, get everything done in all your classes by May 11th. Okay, and you'll be good to go. All right. Questions for me, email me, reach out, let me know what's on your mind. And I have office hours at Google Meets every afternoon, Monday through Friday, 2 to 3 p.m. All the credentials are in your Canvas announcements, or email me and I'll resend it to you so you can log into your school profile and chat with me, and have just time for the two of us to discuss whatever's on your mind, whatever your concerns are, whatever you need help with, or if you just want to shoot the breeze and update me on your life, I welcome that as well. Thanks for watching, and home stretch.